Hey guys, welcome to Fishing Tackle channel. Just wanted to finally publish this video about some Aliexpress fishing rods that I bought. I can't believe some of these guys these YouTube channel guys, the amount of time to edit. I mean, as you can see, I barely edited this, but I mean, this is just my hobby, making videos. Not gonna make this a full-time job, right? Just an excuse to buy more fishing stuff so I could tell my wife that I need it for my channel. But anyways, here's some Aliexpress. So I'm not a big shopper of Aliexpress. My wife is totally against this because she had a bad experience, and for fishing rod I feel like it's pretty good. I've had good experience. I think I bought a total of 5. These are 3 that I'm gonna be showing. They're all casting rod. This one I think is, let me see, 1, 2, I can't remember which one this was. Is that the silver one? Yeah, this is a dual use for spinning reel as well as casting rod. So I wanted to check it out. It was about with I think discount cost about $80, I think, and it's about 5 feet, less than 5 feet. I think it's shorter than I expected, so I think I'm gonna let my daughter use it. I think it's a perfect rod for my daughter to use. But it's one of those dual rods. I didn't know that it existed. I've seen hybrid rods before, but this one's new to me. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but this is actually advertised as a dual use, so you could put a spinning reel on here if you're simply using simple spinning for casting, as well as if you want to use for casting rod or deep sea. But this sinker, I believe, is weighted at 100, between I think 60 and 100 or something like that. That's equivalent to about 8 ounce, up to 8 ounce. So you could use anything from, this rod is, light enough to use for jigs, for freshwater, I think, for as well as saltwater. But it's also great for deep sea fishing. So I'll be using this just because it's such a light, short rod. And it's well built. I mean, when I bought this, as you saw the tag, it's a Fuji ring that they use. But do I recommend it? I think they have an option. If you pay about $15 cheaper, you could get it with, I guess, non-Fuji ones. And if you're just trying it out, I don't think it's worth the extra cost for Fuji, unless you're a big believer for Fuji guides. I checked it out. I checked out the website for the type of Fuji guide it was, and it happens to be the basic minimum one. So it's not even a high quality ones that you would normally see on Daiwa or Shimano. So those are pretty high quality, high end ones for all around fishing. This one is a basic Fuji ring, so if it matters, I would say pay the $15-20 extra. If not, if I'm buying another rod, which I probably will from this company, it's a PureLure. I think I've advertised. I mean, a couple videos for it. They don't pay me. I just like it. I just wanted to check it out and compare it. If you guys have any questions, leave it in a comment. I can make an additional short videos on these rods. This one is a what was it called? I missed it. But again, this is dual use. So normally you have to buy a rod. For those that are not familiar, you buy one for spinning reel or casting reel. So this is a spinning reel, right? This is like a basic type of reel that you use. Or even for saltwater, if you want your sinker or your jigs to go hit the bottom faster, this is the way to go. And if you're casting, if you're surf fishing, this is much easier to use. You don't have to worry too much about tangling bird's nest, what most users are familiar with. It's a pretty simple use, and most people are comfortable with it. And yeah, for this rod, you could you have an option to put these spinning reel as well as casting reel. That's why I bought this. I was like, oh wow, it's a dual use. I could definitely use it, and it's short. For deep sea fishing, it's much better. I don't recommend anyone using anything above 6 feet and 6-inch rod, just because I guess some people prefer a longer one. But if you're in a boat and you're swinging your rods in and out when you're fishing, last thing you need is a long one. I've seen people using, in America mainly, like 7 feet or longer ones, and yeah, if you're in Asia, the boat captain will take it away from you. That's what happened to one of my friends that had a long rod that he brought from like one of those pen thick one. He took it and he just reset it up with one of his 6 feet 6-inch or 6 feet 5-inch rod, saying use this one. It was one of those multi-jig jigging rod that were sensitive, because he couldn't feel the bottom because it was such a thick and long rod. But it's well made. Look, it even has its imprint for their logo. We're Chinese company, I'm assuming. And one of the reason I bought this was I was looking at the reviews, and I usually, for Aliexpress, I would highly recommend looking for Korean reviews. So if you got a bunch of Korean reviewers on there, it's most likely being purchased a lot by Korean fishermen in Korea, and they're a stickler for specific reels and rod, and they seek out high-end one. So most of them have, I would say, normal deep sea fishermen in Japan or Korea. From what I've seen, I've met, they own like $500 to $700 spinning as well as casting rod and reels worth of equipment. But this one is another one that I checked out. I wanted to check out. This was with a discount. I think I paid around $80. Another Aliexpress. It's a PureLure gun company that you could easily find on AliExpress. So look out for their discounts that they have often. But I've noticed, I'll show you a comparison, but this one, the rod blank isn't hollow, it's filled. I don't know if it's hollow inside, but the other one was carbon fiber, so it's super light. Later in this video I'll show you I have a little weight measuring to measure exactly how many ounce these rods weight. So this one is a jigging rod that I found that was for light jigging. I was looking at for blackfish, tautog fishing with 3-ounce jig. I wanted something really light that I could feel almost any fish nibbling on my jig. So for tog jig, I bought this one. I'll probably use this and make some videos and show you guys how successful I was. So this one is pretty nice. It feels nice. It's very light, and I bought the one with Fuji guide as well. It has the length is really nice. I think it's about 6 feet 5 inches. Sinker size 20 to 80. Again, those are Asian ways of marking sinkers. So just think of it as 80 is around 6 ounce. So minus, anytime you see those 10, 20, 30, 40 up to 100 or 200, just minus 20 to kind of estimate the ounce. So for 80, think of it as around 6 ounce. So that's how many guides are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think this comes with about 16 guides. So I think that was around 16, 17 guides. But look how flexible it is. This is supposedly titanium guide, and unless you grab by the tip and intentionally pull it down, if it's bent that way in a regular fishing, right, it's probably not gonna break. You can't help it. So I've seen like $600, $700 rods, Shimano rods or Daiwa rods that had its titanium tips break. So yeah, it's well worth risking buying those kind of rods with those kind of tips. So as you can see, they're all 2-piece rods, and I highly recommend these. I don't know why in America they don't make these 2-piece rods where it's not broken in the middle of the rod, but on the bottom part by the handle or the butt end, where you could separate it. So even though it's a 2-piece, just like a 1-piece rod, you have the same integrity. So here's, as you can see, the two difference in the sensitivity of the rod. So they're both considered as a light rod. One is used for extra light, ultra light, as in you could fish you could catch. I've seen people, based on the reviews I've seen, you could catch easily any rockfish or even yellowtail with those kind of rods, as well as light enough to catch squid for squid fishing, and probably any freshwater pan fishing. So those are good use. So I recommend people buying ultra light rods. That's for saltwater fishing, because you have an option to use freshwater too, because it's light enough and it's well built enough to do that. So here's a rod that, if you want to see some videos, I make a bunch of videos. This was my first rod that I bought from so here from PureLure Gun, right there, it had both regular sinker. I think this one goes up to 12 ounces, as well as jig up to 8 ounce that you could use this for. It was really well made. I caught a couple of blackfish, so it's light enough to feel the nibble, but strong enough, according to some people, use it for yellowtail. So yellowtail is like, it's a pretty big fish if you've caught it. So we're talking about a fish that probably you would normally require up to like 40 pounds or 50 pounds of line, but with this rod, it's strong enough to hold those kind of those test pound braids or a mono to fish for those. But as you can see right here, it's a 2-piece, and you could break it apart easily and store it in a rod holder. And have you noticed all of the rods that I bought from Asia comes with a case? So this one is a jigger a.k.a. Shimano. So this is the rod version of that gold reel that you saw earlier, a.k.a. For those that are really into rod and reels, you'll probably immediately recognize this. So these are one of those high-end model that I think this one is made in Japan or made in Singapore or something like that. But yeah, it's a Japan import rod, and I didn't buy it. I won it as a second place. I was lucky enough to, I worked and lived in Korea for a couple years, and I won that rod as a second place, and I won that gold reel as a first place. So in Korea, there's so much competition for saltwater fishing. Every year they have about a month or 2 month long promotion where the load for fishermen is about 25 to 30 people, and you don't have to pay any additional fees, tournament fees. You just show up as a regular, and if you're able to get a reservation, you're automatically entered. So at the end of the 8-10 hour fishing, whoever has the biggest fish, not by weight but biggest fish by length, because again, Koreans decide, if a fish had enough full stomach, it's gonna weigh more, or somebody could cheat on it. So instead they go by the length of the fish. So I won both the reel and rod with flounder in Korea. I think for the gold reel I won with I think 36 inch 86 centimeter I think is what I caught. And then the following trip, like 2 weeks later, I got on a boat with a tournament going on, and I won. I tied first place, so I had an option to either get the reel or the rod, and we did a rock paper scissors, and the other guy won, and he decided to take the reel. But afterwards, I looked it up online, and the rod actually cost more than the reel, so I was a little bit surprised. But you know, it's shiny and looks nice, so the other guy got it. I was hoping to get the reel again because my daughter was eyeing it. She was like, "Oh, I want a gold reel," but they both cost around $500-$600. Would I pay for it? I don't think it's worth that much, but if your wife or someone wants to gift you, and if you got $600 laying around, yeah, go ahead and buy it. But would I ever pay for it? I think I'll show you later. Abu Garcia, the most expensive one that I actually purchased or someone gifted me is around $250. I wouldn't pay this much for it, but it's a good rod if you use it. It's gonna be hard to go back to using Shakespeare or Penn fishing rod. Once you guys use this, one of these jigging rods, these ultra soft or multi jigging rods, you can't go back to it. It's like after you drive a Mercedes or a BMW 7 Class, you're not gonna go back to driving a 3 Class or Kia or Hyundai. Not that there's anything wrong with it, right? But it's hard to. You're gonna miss the additional mechanism, the well built of a car. You're gonna miss that. There's definitely a difference. I mean, you can still fish. I mean, it's fishing, but again, you could only tell if you're avid fisherman. If you're one of those person that goes out fishing once in a while, you probably won't miss it. Doesn't really matter. So this one is a Korean Abu Garcia. So in Korea or Japan, they have their own local company, I guess a branch, right? So this one is made, you can't buy it in the stateside or in Japan or anywhere else. This is specifically made for Abu Garcia, Korea. So I think this was, I bought it because I wanted a nice rod, and this is extra well-made one. I think a special edition for flounder fishing. They call it down shot. In America, we call it, drop shot, right? In Japan and Korea, they use a drop shot method of a rig to fish for flounders and other rockfish. And this rod is made specifically for that. So it's, yeah, the design and the details is incredible. The colors really well made. I think they use carbon fiber for this, and I don't think this is Fuji though. This is a Kigan, Kigan guide and reel seat that they use. But yeah, it's a half the price of Osea Shimano, but that case what attracted me too. It's a really nice case, and I knew it was gonna be. They call it Air for a reason. It's much lighter than Shimano Osea. But at the same time, you could fish using sinkers up to, I think, 10-12 ounces for this one too. But it's well made. I've used it for about 2 years. Because it's so light, I let my daughter use it for fishing. I'll probably let her use the one I bought from Aliexpress, which is around 5 feet long. I think it's much better, but this one is pretty stiff. You could definitely use it for, you could feel the bottom and most small fish nibbling on it, but at the same time you could, for like flounder fishing, you could jig with it. Stiff enough to jig up and down with it. But it didn't, when I first got it didn't flush. So something for you to be aware is when you buy these guys, it won't flush all the way. But eventually, they made it that way because eventually it'll wear out and it'll flush down. it'll fit perfectly. So initially when you get it, if it does, like this one, initially it didn't flush all the way like a one piece, but it will look like a one piece and it feels like a one piece. So let me show you using this scale how light this one is, this rod, Abu Garcia Air is. As you can see, about 123, 24-ish grams, equivalent to about 4 ounces. Isn't that crazy? Most of the sinkers you use out in the ocean, you use 8 ounce sinker, right? 6 to 8 ounce sinker for deep sea fishing. Means this rod is lighter than most of the sinkers that you're going to be using. So Sea, this is expensive because of that reason. They use like a carbon fiber materials, and even this is about 130 grams, equivalent to about 5 ounce, estimated 4.6 ounce, 5 ounce. So yeah, it's really light. This one's Aliexpress Spada. I highly recommend this one. I love this rod, and this one is about 4.5 ounce, super light. So if you're fishing for 8 hours, I've seen people struggle. Their wrists wear out, their arm and their shoulders, they get tired, right? That's because most of the fishermen I've noticed, compared to in Asia, was they're using like pen heavy rod that should be normally used for like big fish, tuna fishing, shark fishing, right? Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed listening to me just blabbing about the rods. I have a lot of interest in them. I collect them. I have like 20 rods that I go around using on every trip, and I really like it. Just trying out different rods makes my fishing experience a lot more fun. And I hope the U.S. companies like the Penn and Abu Garcia or Daiwa or Shimano USA realize that this is the future. These ultra light jigging rods that are 2 pieces with the integrity of a 1-piece rod is what the consumers want. I think everybody does. Everybody asks me, hey, the color is amazing. Oh wow, it's a 2-piece and it's super light. Everybody that holds my rod is like, oh, this is incredible. So I think that's what they're looking at. So I know some people are not looking for a made in China, but everything is made in China anyways. I would say try out the AliExpress, and once you demand these kind of things made in the US, I think people will quickly realize and catch up. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and subscribe and like the video if you enjoyed it, and leave a comment. Thanks.